All right. Hey, everybody. My name is David Utrovan. I am the community development lead here at MakerDAO, and welcome to June 4th, Tuesday community call. So, for those of you that haven't been at one of these, or haven't watched one of these, or haven't listened to one of these, this is just our community call. We've been doing it every Tuesday for the better part of 2 years, and we like to go over uh, basically the last week of MakerDAO, what's been going on in the MakerDAO universe, everything from like events that we're participating in to the stuff that's going on in governance, integration partners, people that self-integrated, podcasts, articles, highlights from the community, you name it. And we try to get a nice curated list of the stuff that's happened in the last week. And also, every now and then, we get a special guest on the call, and we get to do some cool stuff like demos. And so, whenever we do have a guest, they're usually first in line to get some airtime. So Petru came on, Petru Catana came on a few weeks ago to actually demonstrate the multi-collateral Dai on Kovan command line interface and like setting it up and how to play around with it if you're new to that kind of thing. And it was really well received, and a lot of people really loved it. And so this week, Petru is back on the call, and he's going to be talking about uh, basically a simple integration example. And you know what? I'm gonna let Petru take the reins here, and yeah, feel free to introduce yourself further, man.
Sure. So, hello guys. Okay, you can see me now. So I'm
Yes.
Petru. I'm working in the integrations department at MakerDAO, and I'm here, helping out, building some small tools, especially for the partners. And once in a while, I have a chance to build some small integration examples. So recently, I've built a Dai MCD plugin example, showcasing how you can use it in your front-end applications to interact basically with our soon-to-be released MCD system, right? So yeah, let's get on it. So let me turn off my camera.
Yeah, and really quick, while you set that up, anybody in the call, if you guys have questions for Petru, feel free to jump in at any time. You could also type your questions in the chat if you're shy. I'll be happy to read them for you. But yeah, feel free to participate.
All right, so we have a repo called integration examples here on GitHub. And here we have, a list of different project solutions or ways to, showcasing how you can interact with our Dai Credit System, right? Even with the current single collateral Dai or the future one with multi-collateral Dai, right? Yeah, so basically here we have some instructions how you can follow along. But today we're going to focus on the MCD Dai integration example. And this example uses the Dai.js library. I have it here open. Yeah, you guys, you can find it here if you like to have it, if you don't know about it.
The Dai.js library is probably like one of my favorite pages on our website. It's so cool.
Yeah, so Dai.js pretty much now the current library here works, of course, with the single collateral Dai, right? You can easily integrate it in your custom front ends that you want to build. But on the sideline, of course, we're building slowly the library for the multi-collateral Dai, right? So we can work with that. So if we go to the Dai.js main library here on GitHub, of course, you can see everything about it here as well, and see the instructions how you can set up. But also, of course, we have the Dai plugin MCD. So it's a special plugin that you link into this Dai.js library, and that will allow you to basically interact with the MCD system, right? And I don't know if any of you are developers or understand more or less more technicalities, but I'll just quickly show you how things are working. It's pretty simple. Again, you just, of course, we import the MCD plugin from the library, just as Dai.js, right? Yeah, we have to import the Maker Dai.js as well. And then when we set it up pretty much on this code bracket right here, and we add it as a plugin into this area object pretty much, right? So that's the setup. And then to call the functions, right? To interact with the system, you start calling these predefined functions defined in the library, right? So for example, open lock draw here pretty much does open, lock, and draw right away in one function call, right? On the blockchain to basically, draw your Dai, right? While locking your collateral. So going back to the MCD Dai example, again, you just if you want to just go to the main page here and clone the repo to your local computer. Of course, I already did that, so I'm not going to do that. So when you
So
have
I have a quick question for you, Petru.
yeah.
So I know that every couple of weeks there's a multi-collateral Dai update, and a lot of the contract addresses are often updated, and there's like changes being made. Is the MCD Dai plugin like updated alongside almost every time? Is there any time that like it would kind of like break? Like, are there any things that developers should be considering?
Yeah, so as soon as we deploy a new version of the MCD on Coven, the development team, right, they strive to follow along and update their code bases as well. So you can see here clearly that they have updated now to version 2.7, right? So
Yeah, I see that.
where you
Nice.
can go and check out to see if they updated to the latest, right? And of course, the way they update it, they just provide the addresses of the latest deployment, right? Here you go.
Nice.
So
That's
the library depends on this JSON pretty much of addresses, right? And yeah, so I tried it earlier and it looks like it worked. So that's good. So now let me show you what I've been playing with a bit. I went both now to both of them. Here we go. So assuming I have downloaded the repo locally and opened it on VS Code. Again, VS Code is just a development environment, right? So you can write code easily, pretty much. And this is the folder structure. I'm not going to go deeply into it because I don't know what's the audience here, if you are mostly developers or just enthusiasts. But pretty much this is the environment how you start developing and writing demos, right? So for me, I'll just start the application. So of course, I've written it in React because it's the easiest way.
So in order to do this, you have to have what? You have to have Node.js. You have to have like what other kind of prerequisite installs do you need to
Oh yeah,
do
right.
this stuff?
Yeah, of course, you need to have Node.js. You need to have Git, so you can basically easily clone this repo on your machine, right? And have if not a IDE like this, just you can use the command line and run it from there, pretty much. And that's pretty much it. No more than that. Oops. So let's see. Here we go. The basic simple example showcasing our ability to work with this. So test chain Coven. Let's probably use account 9. Okay. So I used another community, okay, not community, but another UI library built in the Web3 ecosystem by consensus, actually. So it's very nice to basically, look around and see what others have built so I can easily use their tools to build what I want to build, right? So the ecosystem is growing very fast and it gets easier and easier to develop on blockchain, on Ethereum, right? As you
Right
can see,
on.
clearly you have it Dai MCD, right? So here we go. We connected. I made it simple so you can tell right away that you don't have any collateral tokens. So you can request collateral tokens from the faucet, just as we did last time with the MCD CLI, right?
And that's a button? Oh
That's a
shit. That's
button.
amazing. Oh, that's great.
So here you go. It just requires your MetaMask again to sign the transaction to ask the faucet to give you some collateral tokens, right? And let's cross our fingers and see if everything works.
Dude, this is awesome. Yeah,
So
so and for context, for those of you that didn't catch Petru's last demo a few weeks ago, he kind of taught all of us how to get some collateral one and MDAI and like how to interact with all the faucet addresses on Kovan through command line. So to see you do it through the plugin is
yeah, so it's
really
pretty
really
much
sweet.
the same process, right? But now we've abstracted all those hard, function calls to the smart contracts with the command lines, and put that on a beautiful library that can use on the front end, right? And then,
Right.
of course, you have that, and you need a UI library to make it look nice a bit, to see that it's a nice button and a nice card, or things like this.
So
So here we go.
Hold on. So Daniel's asking, is collateral one the Kovan Ethereum faucet?
That's the token address. I guess that's what he's asking for. But you can see the faucet address of the contract on changelog, releases 2.7, contract addresses, and faucet. Here we go.
So, sorry, what is the call one and faucet? Sorry, just
Oh, okay.
like
Sure.
maybe stepping like 2 steps back.
Sure. So, on these test networks, test chains like Kovan, right? You have Kovan ETH that you can interact with the smart contracts to play with, right?
Right.
But in our case, we have a multi-collateral Dai system, and that requires that we need to have collateral tokens, other tokens that we can lock
Got it.
to the system, right?
I see.
So we have this faucet that basically gives you these fake tokens to play with that have
Right. So this could be digits or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I see. Got it. Okay, cool.
And
Thanks.
there's I think three different collateral. There's collateral one, collateral two, and collateral three, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Call 5. Call. Yeah, exactly. Call 4.
Do,
Call 5.
do all these collaterals like refer to a particular asset? Like, is one of them like digits or?
Well, in a way, yes. So the way they're different is basically on the MCD system, we give them specific price feeds, right?
I see.
You know,
Okay.
literally copying, let's say, a specific token on the mainnet, right? So
Right.
but whatever, right?
Cool.
So different tokens, different parameters, different ceilings as well, how much depth you issue, and so on, right? So in our case, I just use call one.
Right. So it's
Example.
just a convenience thing for us that you have for the
Exactly.
faucet. Got it.
So yeah, I got my tokens right now here. So next step, just we have to approve the adapter to withdraw the call one, just like on MCD CLI example. Approve it, and we wait till the blockchain does its thing. And yeah, that's just a simple way to.
And so this functionality is like irrespective of the UI itself, right? So like you can grab any type of UI library and it could like display it differently, but all the basic abstracted away commands and buttons are still there through the Dai.js library.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the beauty of I'm gonna say software development, because you abstract these different functionalities in layers, let's say, right? So you can always combine them just like Lego bricks, to create many new things as you want, right?
Yeah. I've been really excited to see like a bunch of different even governance portals and I know there's a few different single collateral Dai CDP portals, and just the fact that you could it seems like really like a pretty easy thing to implement if you have like the UI library already set and ready.
Exactly. That's what I'm using as well myself now as a developer. I'm building from scratch. It just takes more time, but this way when you have pre-built tools sitting on the shelf, you just go and pick them up and use them, right? And here you go.
Right.
I lock my collateral, and I got one multi-collateral Dai right here. Done. Simple, right? And now, of course, I'll do the reverse process to withdraw the Dai.
And so this exact plugin is basically what's used on our MCD portal, right? Like the portal that's being developed right now. It's
Yeah,
the same
sure.
thing. Yeah.
Of course, they use many other things here, right? But as a simple example. Of course, they used MCD plugin there, plus many other things. But in my case, I just use the MCD plugin.
Yeah, this is like the bare bones example.
Yeah. So now I'm paying it back. So I could literally have this interface for myself, in case somebody shuts down the main CDP portal, due to any other reasons. I just have this running locally on my machine, and I could easily interact with the MCD.
So I'm a bit of a noob, right? Like how do I run it locally on my machine? Like I see localhost 3000 over there. Like do I need to have like some sort of like third party service to help run a server? Do I use my own computer as a server? Like how do you set that up?
Right. So with the beauty of JavaScript, because this is JavaScript pretty much, everything JavaScript in this example, right? You need to have just Node.js to allow you to run this kind of projects,
Right.
And that kind of is covered. And then you just basically follow the this is Navigate MCD. This and then you follow this command on the root position in the folder, right? Firstly, you run npm install. That basically means that you need to install all the external libraries that you're going to use. So in our case, the project is going to install our MCD plugin plus any other libraries that I'm using. So in my case, I can go here to package.json and see what libraries I'm using for this project. So in this case, it's called dependencies, right? So here we go. We have the MakerDAO Dai basic JS library. And then we have the Dai plugin MCD to support us to interact with the MCD system, right? And besides that, of course, we have React, React DOM, React Scripts, Rimble UI, which is the UI components library from Consensus. And then, of course, another library to help me build my project, right? So this command, npm install, basically fetches from the web right away from a special place, all the libraries I need to use in this project. And then when that's done, I'm doing npm start. And actually,
it's all like the standard Node.js libraries. So like, yeah, right.
Exactly. So let me show you actually. So from the start, because let me do this. So I'm on GitHub. I'm cloning this from here, and I'm gonna open now myself a Windows subsystem Linux thing. So I'm just gonna go git. That's what I have here. Perfect. Git.
This is just like a VM, right? Like a virtual machine, something that doesn't have the stuff that you already have installed on your computer, right?
No, there's no virtual machine. Oh, what do you mean, the Linux thing?
Yeah. What are you doing right now?
Okay, what I'm doing right now, I'm just
so uneducated.
I'm happy to walk you through.
I'm happy to learn, man.
So this is just a terminal, right? On Windows, you can have PowerShell, same thing, or terminal. Here you go, the basic bare bones Windows version, but this is like very not user friendly at all, right? So me as a developer, I use PowerShell, and I've installed the Linux subsystem on Windows as well, because it's Linux, it's easier to develop as well. So in this case, I'm going to use Linux. So of course, by default, I already have Node.js installed, and Git is basically a versioning software to allow you to easily version, anything you write, any code, or you can version text, whatever, right? And you can easily go back in time, check what you submitted at that time, and then reverse. And it's easy to basically manage your code. So that's what we use mostly in software development. And I have these two things installed, and basically I call the git command, git clone. I call basically the repository on GitHub that has the integration examples from MakerDAO, right? And cloning it. Oh yeah, I have a passphrase. So. There you go. So now it's here. This is a folder, right? So I'm gonna enter the folder and then enter again. Here we can see all the examples, that integration examples we at MakerDAO have built. And now I'll navigate to MCD Dai folder. So CD basically is check directory command, right?
Right.
And boom, I'm there. Here we go. So when I'm here and when I see the package.json file right there, I can use now this instruction that I was giving you earlier. Wait, where am I? Integration examples. Perfect. So what does it tell here? Navigate to MCD Dai folder, right? I did. And now run npm install. npm is a JavaScript tool that basically allows you to easily
node package manager, right?
Correct. Yeah, to install dependencies, right? So that's where we deploy our packages, our libraries as well, to all this central node package manager of JavaScript, right? So that's what I do here as well. So I just do npm install. And here we go. Now it just fetches all the necessary data for the project. In a way, it sets it up, because what I've downloaded in a way was, of course, the code that I've written and the recipe, let's say, to, for all the packages I need to use, right? And then in order for me to run the project, I need to put all the recipes together, bake my cake, and then I can run the project,
That's actually a brilliant. That's a brilliant analogy.
Yeah, I tried to make it simple. And yeah, here we go. Now we're just waiting for things to install. You probably take a bit of time because
you're doing a really amazing job of explaining all of this.
Is it easy to understand?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
While still
For
accurate.
me as well.
Yeah, I've done a marketing degree before this, so I've got a bit of that. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, we're still waiting for it to install.
Yeah, as a non-technical person, I remember a couple months ago trying to figure out how to generate a bunch of ETH addresses and airdrop to them Dai.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, that was like hard for me. I had to do all the Node.js install. I had to download Git. I had to like figure all of this stuff out, and it took me like a whole day. And now I could do it in like an hour.
Here we go. Yeah, it takes a bit of work.
Sense. Yeah, but this makes sense.
Yeah, so I literally started to be interested into this in software mostly because of Bitcoin and Ethereum. I decided to study computer science because of this, because man, this is cool. This is amazing. I want to understand how it works. And unfortunately, I learned nothing about crypto at my university while I studied computer science. Nothing. I had to teach my teachers how this stuff works.
Yeah, that's reflecting in your ability to teach us.
Thank you very much. So here we go. We have hopefully.
Oh, it's going to take some time. Script.
Yeah. Yeah, it's installing the big stuff here, mostly from the. Yeah, don't get scared, guys. This is just a normal process.
Maybe just while it's script is gonna compile, if you could go back to the repo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for like the integration examples, all of this is just for the multi-collateral Dai system at the moment.
Not necessarily. We have.
Oh, there's a lot of other. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So we have an example to just use the single collateral Dai, which is all of them exactly. Only MCD Dai, MCD, right?
Maybe just another stupid question. For M Dai and Dai, is it the same ERC20 contract? Or equivalent of ERC20?
It is an ERC20 token. I just written M Dai just because to clarify that it's a
I see.
Dai token backed by the multi-collateral Dai system, right?
I see. Just checking. Cool.
But when we're gonna release our multi-collateral Dai, of course, on mainnet, it's still gonna be Dai, right?
I see.
We're gonna have a migration process that will, migrate single collateral Dai to multi-collateral Dai and so on, and your CDPs too, and everything.
I see. So for the current ERC20 for Dai, it will be migrated to a new ERC20, which also includes the Dai minted from the multi-collateral Dai.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
How long is that transition window going to be scheduled where both of them will be kind of floating at the same time?
I think it's going to be a couple of months. Because now we're an established project and we have a lot of people, companies, integration partners using Dai and our MCD system, right, or CDP system. So that'll be a couple of months process to, of course, we're gonna announce on time and provide proper instructions on how to migrate and so on, right? So to make this process as seamless as possible, but there will be a window where it'll be a bit of
but aside from the documentation, just forget the fact. I think we're all decent people, but somebody's going to have an attack vector. What is kind of the plan for, I would almost call it liquidity? Is it intended to be a one-for-one internal peg swap? Or, I guess what I'm trying to say is as we start that transition period, won't there be a scenario where basically there won't be enough buyers, or the people who transition last kind of get screwed? Or I'm seeing a bunch of text from David typing quickly.
Short answer is I don't know exactly how can I reply this to you.
Yes, sorry, I was actually answering David in the chat, and I'm gonna vocalize his question and answer for the people that are listening in or watching. But hold on, can you ask that one more time, Matthew? Because I want to address what you said.
Yeah, so let's just assume right now there are 82 million Dai outstanding. We know there's a market of buyers and sellers. That's what keeps the peg the peg.
Right.
So now you create another Dai, a new Dai, the M Dai, but it won't just still be called Dai 2.0, basically. And we have to go from A to B. If you just totally forgot about the Dai system and you just left your Dai sitting in your wallet, you waited until the last day of the quote unquote official transition, there are clearly going to be less buyers and sellers than there will be the first day, which means the price might no longer be at a peg. It might be at, I make up some horrible scenario, 50 cents on the dollar. And it's a good motivation for everybody to do it as quickly as possible. But at the same time, how do you...
So the way that I understand it is that there's going to be a moment where the system globally settles, right? And what happens what happens during global settlement is that the oracles are frozen and that the system counts Dai as $1. So if the oracles are frozen and people are able to redeem their Dai for the underlying collateral, if they chose not to use one of the easy conversion tools, or if they chose not to sell their Dai or whatever, if they're just still holding on to Dai at the point of global settlement, they will be able to basically redeem the collateral that is still left in the system that's backing their Dai. And I think that as the system scales down, there's going to come a certain point where the Dai 1.0 markets do experience that kind of instability. So that might I don't really know how it's going to play out exactly, but that is something that's going to be factored into when the emergency shutdown would have to happen. That's kind of how I see it, my own personal understanding of how that situation is going to play out. But people should be, as long as there's Dai out there, there's somebody with a CDP with Ether in it that hasn't either migrated or closed it out. I hope that answers it. I might have gotten a little bit.
Sorry, I don't want to hijack the rest of the MCD component. I was just curious how we're going to do it. Go ahead.
No, totally, man. Yeah, we could bring this discussion even more to the governance and risk calls on Thursday, or
yeah, definitely.
It's a really interesting question. And also, just to really quickly vocalize what David Gogol asked. He asked if there's any documentation on how parameters, in parentheses, advanced rates, interest rates, will be determined for collateral and multi-collateral Dai. And I just mentioned that Cyrus has been working on a ton of documentation behind the scenes about that. And he's actually going to be talking more and more about it. And there's going to be more public discourse about all that stuff in the coming weeks, now that the monetary policy bit has calmed down a little.
Right. Yeah. Also, it's just a bit, you can bring a bit of common sense into it. Looking just at the tokens on the top 100 tokens on CoinMarketCap, and seeing their history and how they behaved over a couple of years, right? And according to that, you just basically give some parameters to that token to be able to be added to the MCD system, right?
Right,
Be
and
it
that's one side of it.
how much of a ceiling it can get maximum, right? What's the collateral ratio, right? And so on.
Yeah, and Cyrus is working on all the intricacies because for every token, there's a lot of like qualitative and quantitative differences. You have to look at how it's trading on the open market, and you also have to look at the token itself, the crypto economic model behind it, the the amount of float in the market compared to supply, the uh, the team itself, organizational risks, legal and regulatory risks, like all of that is factored in through a qualitative assessment and a quantitative assessment of each individual asset. And like all of that is part of Cyrus's documentation. So it gets pretty deep. It gets pretty granular.
Exactly. So yeah, as you saw, I just typed npm start after doing npm install, and now the server is slowly starting to start, right? So when that happens, it basically opens a browser window, a tab, and it goes right away to localhost 3000. And if it doesn't, you just go yourself to localhost 3000 here, and the application will start. Right.
So
And then
so let me just recap that for a second. So you just did all the configuration, you did the npm install, and you set it up, and then you hit npm start, and then once that happens, it opens a tab for you, and it's there.
exactly.
Nice.
So now it's opened and it's a bit loading because I'm running it on the Linux subsystem,
Right.
and that usually sometimes is slowly. But yeah, pretty much it's gonna start running here on localhost 3000 and done. You have your local portal to the MCD.
And so can people do this with single collateral Dai right now through like obviously not the same library, but through like there's a similar, you could pretty
Yes.
much do this with single collateral Dai too, right?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, of course, this is a library you can, if you know how to develop, you can play with it yourself and have it as a doomsday scenario where you only have access to internet, but every portal is shut down, whatever.
Right.
Or use the integration examples and see what's in here, and here you go. You can do automatic leveraging. If you want, it automatically basically creates a CDP, issues Dai, and buys more ETH, right? So you go 2 times leverage or 3 times leverage on ETH. Right? And then there's React examples or example of topping up your CDP if
Right on. Cool.
So yeah, okay. I see this is a bit slow, so I'm gonna just shut it down.
Yeah, we believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. So that is coming to the
Here we go.
conclusion of the demo, right? Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming on, Petru. If anybody has any additional questions, Petru, are there easy ways to get in contact with you?
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. That's the easiest way, I guess.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so thank you, man. Appreciate it. That was really, really educational, and I personally learned a lot.
Yeah, start playing with it, it's
Right
never too
on.
late.
Right on. All right, cool. So for the next bit of the call, we got like 25 minutes about I'm gonna launch into our usual agenda. And yeah, so Petru, can you post your Twitter handle in the chat?
Sure.
Yeah. So all right, I'm gonna launch into what we usually do on these calls, which is just go through a bunch of stuff that's been going on in the Maker universe. And so if you guys want to follow along, or if you're interested in anything that I mention or talk about, feel free to check out the Google Doc that I just listed in the chat, and everything there is linked, and it looks good. So hold on, let me actually present a window as well, because it'll make it a little bit easier. All right, so Let me know if you guys could see that. And the reason I ask it to let me know if you guys could see that, because I know Google Meets has been having this issue in the past
Yes,
weeks where it
we
does it
can.
automatically. You can, right? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go through some real life events that are going on this week. So we have Money 2020 that's actually been happening for the last couple of days in Amsterdam. And Lenka is over there representing. She's over there with a couple of our developers, including Adrian and Lassie, who's our head of integrations. And so over here, there's just some info on the events that have been going on for the last few days and the events that are going to be going on tomorrow and the day after. So if you're interested, check it out. I think that one of those events is like streaming live, but I'm not sure which one. I apologize. In Korea, we have on the 7th the blockchain games meetup that our awesome community manager Do is going to be part of. And I don't know if you guys are as excited about blockchain games as I am, but I am really excited to finally sell my CS:GO skins on Uniswap. So hopefully one day that happens soon. So yeah, not too many events this week, but nevertheless, we're doing some stuff.
Question for you: are there any like those are the events that are happening kind of this week? Which
Yeah, exactly.
There's no chance for like me to go to any of those. Or is there like a plan of what events are kind of like on the horizon, like quarters in advance, so that?
Yeah, there are, and geez, I think there was plans to actually have we have like a sheet that runs into an events page. Yeah, so yeah, we have some stuff here, but I think that we're working on streamlining, updating this like more. I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, even those, I mean, that's still like in 10 days. I'm more thinking like.
Yeah, we have an internal document where we kind of track all the events, and I think the team is working to have more visibility into future events. But I'll definitely take that feedback to them for sure. Would you guys be interested in like me highlighting events like further out that are like bigger events?
I would.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because we used to do that, but it ended up eating a lot of time, so I cut it down to just the stuff that we're doing this coming week, basically. So all right, cool. Good to know. I'll include some stuff for the next call. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the events this week. I'm gonna go over some of the other more official stuff like governance, technical milestones, partnerships, all that good stuff. So we had a summary and discussion thread posted about last Thursday's governance and risk call. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, we do this call, the governance and risk call, every Thursday at the same time that this community call happens. So 12 p.m. Eastern time, and like it's the same time slot, just on Thursday instead of Tuesday. And briefly after the call, just a few hours later, we post a really great summary. And we've been having issues with the view, so we put in some pictures to follow along with all of the points that were made during the call. And the summary is also equipped with a bunch of video anchors. So if you are interested in any one part of the call, you have the freedom to kind of jump around if you don't have the full hour and a half to listen, as I know a lot of people don't, because we're all adults and professional, and yeah, time is a really valuable resource. And so we've been trying to make it more accessible to more people. Besides that, some news: we had an executive vote come out on Friday to lower the stability fee by 1% to a total of 16.5% a year. And this executive vote came as a result of last week's governance poll, which didn't have amazing turnout, but nevertheless, the 16.5% option won. And currently, the 16.5% option is sitting at, I think, like 40,000 MKR, and it needs an additional 15,000 to pass. So it hasn't passed yet. And yeah, and that's the current state of things. And also, what is today? Today's Tuesday, right? So the governance poll. There was also a governance poll that came out on Monday, which I don't know why I have somehow managed to miss the link there. But a governance poll came out on Monday, and there is a ton of options, and there's a bunch of people voting actually. Yeah, here. So there's a ton of options, everything from down to 12.5%, to back up to like 21.5%. There's 9 different options. And if you're a Maker holder, feel free to go and participate and signal what the next executive vote should be. So yeah, and besides that, there was a couple of weekly narratives on MakerDAO. Actually, we have the man himself in the call, Matthew. He writes them once every week and a half, 2 weeks, and they're really great narratives if you want a brief recap on what's been going on in the MakerDAO governance world. So check those out. So besides that, we have some cool stuff going on in integrations. We were integrated into Bloomy Incorporated, a payment gateway. So it's like I'll let you guys click on the link and figure it out because we got like 15 minutes, and I'm just gonna kind of run through these. We got Dai token integrated for tipping on Publish OX, and actually Dan is on the call today, and he's visiting the community call. But yeah, Publish OX, which is a competitor to like Steemit, where people can self-publish, their own writing and blogs and whatever they really want, and people can now tip in Dai, which is really freaking cool. And actually, I'd probably be interested, Dan, in having you in one of these community calls to kind of talk about PublishOX a bit in the future if you're interested. But yeah, moving forward. So Outlet, I saw on Reddit, this cryptocurrency wallet called Outlet came out, and it kind of promoted itself as a wallet that interfaces with a bunch of DeFi stuff like DYDX and Compound and all the goods. But there was a lot of open questions, and the website was kind of like lacking a lot of information. And also, they didn't really answer any of Rich's questions on Reddit, which are what these are. But either way, it's cool that they're working on stuff. Hopefully, we get some answers to those questions. But yeah, they self-integrated Dai as well. So Dai is also being used to buy and sell everything on WSWC, which stands for We Shop with Crypto. It's an eBay-like marketplace dedicated for crypto users, so you can go on and put up listings and sell stuff, and you can accept and pay in Dai. Besides that, we also have Fabrics and Fabrics is kind of like, I'm not really 100% sure what they are. I tried reading into them, but uh, it is a little above my head. But they integrated Dai, and I think they're pretty much like also a plug-in solution to some DeFi things, because we're not the only ones. They also have people can plug into like DYDX and Compound and all that stuff through their Web 3.0 adapter and like their API. But yeah, so they integrated Dai and MakerDAO generally, so you guys could check it out as a developer resource if you guys are developing stuff. Besides that, we had one podcast this week that came out with one of our core devs, Nick Kunkel. I always call him Crunkle. It's not Crunkle, it's Kunkel. So he was on the Bitcoin podcast on episode 47 of Hashing It Out, and I haven't listened to it yet, but I probably will soon. But yeah, check it out. So besides that, we also became an associate founding member of the International Token Standardization Association. There's not too much information on that, but it's basically an association that's trying to standardize token definitions and how they're viewed by regulatory agencies and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested, check it out. Also, these are some blog posts from the official Maker blog. We did a recap of Blockchain Week in New York, and there was a ton of stuff that happened during Blockchain Week in New York. So definitely check it out. It's a really, really cool recap, and kind of covers a lot of the talks, a lot of the tech that was there, and yeah. And besides that, we also have a return of the famous Making Maker blog posts, which kind of went dark for a little while, but they are back and with full force because May 2019 was a really exciting month, and a lot happened, and either way, I covered it all, or we covered it all here in this call. But yeah, and then another thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that I know the MCD testnet upgrades. There was an upgrade talked about for transitioning from Kovan to the Goerli network, and that was actually set for I think last Friday, but there were some technical difficulties surrounding Goerli, so that has been put off for a little bit, and I think that yeah, so for now, like the next thing that's going to happen there that has to do with a brand new network is going to be something around yeah, I guess this is outdated now. Yeah, I got to ask, but either way, there's going to be some more stuff announced soon about what's going on with this transition. And if you guys want to check day to day, if you're interested, we have this new domain, changelog.makerdao.com. All right, and that is pretty much it for all the more official stuff. Now I'm gonna go through some highlights from the community, and also like feel free to stop me at any point. Happy to answer questions and talk for a bit. We got like 10 minutes left, and I'm gonna breeze through this real quick. So some highlights from the community. We put out a FAQ on oracles for the community to review. And so this has been, I think, the 6th or 7th FAQ document that we've put out, and it's really great. If you guys have time, definitely check it out and give us your feedback. We always want to improve. We always want to add questions that we might have missed, and so we are working hard to get all the FAQs in order and kind of streamlined and available. And actually, we in other news, we've also been working to translate them into other languages. So we actually have a whole subset of FAQs already in Korean, in Japanese, and I believe in Italian, and more coming. So yeah. Another funny thing that happened was this. So Eric Connor asked if Ethereum ran a marketing campaign for DeFi, what would the slogan be? And Vitalik kind of gave us this this hammer of a phrase: "Buy Dai or meet your maker." It's a good moment. Good moment. Yeah. Developer creations. So there is this cool thing called Sablier, and Sablier is a decentralized app for continuous payments using Dai. And I'm actually going to get Paul Berg on the call in a couple of weeks to demo it. But this thing is a really cool proof of concept. You could actually pay people by the minute, by the quarter hour, by the hour of the day. You could set a start and end time, and it's like, yeah, it's a pretty cool proof of concept, and it's a really interesting way that you might see payroll being transformed in the future, right? So this was really nice to see. Super interesting. Besides that, there was I forgot the guy's name, but there's a CDP push notifications website where you could pretty much like go on this website on your phone, and it will prompt you to set up some push notifications for your CDP. So, and he was looking to add functionality, and I had suggested that he put in some push notifications for governance events, which is something that we haven't seen, or at least I don't know of any app or project that's doing notifications about governance events. And I think that that would be a really cool thing to implement here. But nevertheless, he created this thing for CDP push notifications. So there was a bunch of really cool articles that happened this week as well. CoinDesk published an article on MakerDAO finally approving a Dai fee decrease after an 11-day deliberation. And that was actually really interesting because I know that there was a split in the community in regards to like the right decision there, because the peg was holding steady and it was like, it was kind of above the peg for a little while, which is what initially prompted people to think, okay, we should decrease the fee. But then as the market kind of calmed down a bit, volume levels dropped down a bit, Dai stabilized at almost exactly $1. And the recommendation was to kind of like just stay and watch. But nevertheless, MakerDAO maker voters approved the decrease, which was proved to be just fine for the peg, and we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, so there was a fee decrease. Next, troubles at MakerDAO are symptomatic of shifting narratives in crypto. So this was an article by BTC Manager that I believe interviewed Stephen Becker, and it talked about how crypto is shifting from like a very crypto anarchic worldview to kind of understanding that, if we want to interact with the global financial system, that there has to be accommodations and like paths to bridge the two worlds. And so, you can't really escape regulation. You can't really escape certain realities. And it was a really interesting article to read. And it was very kind of sobering and real. Yeah. So besides that, there was another one. So this one has an obnoxiously long title, but the reason I put it here is because it actually has a lot of really great analytics about Dai. And so like the author Josh Alswitz, he broke down a really cool like there's a lot of really great insights in here. So read it if you got time and you're interested. Besides that, we also had a blog post from JP Koning. And Cyrus actually invited him to sit in on the risk call and to give Cyrus some of his thoughts on the possible risks around Dai. And so JP Koning put out a really interesting blog post with some of his thoughts. And so check it out if you're interested in like the latest critique of Dai, basically. But he had a lot of positive to say, and he had a lot of interesting things that maker holders and people using Dai should take into consideration. So yeah, there was also an article put out on PublishOX, everything you need to know about MakerDAO and Dai, and it was pretty comprehensive. It went through a lot of stuff. It was super long. Always nice to see these intro to MakerDAO articles. And so here's the latest one. Besides that, there's a couple of great threads on Reddit this week. There was a really interesting bunch of comments on this one, which was preparing for an eventual recession/economic collapse, and it talked about what it would look like for the dollar to come crashing down and like what Dai and what the implications are. It was an interesting conversation there. There was another thread, what is preventing using CPI rather than USD as the stability peg? And this was interesting because, so I don't know if you guys know, but originally the idea was to use the what was it, the SDR that the IMF produces as a reference point, because it was considered to be more stable because it's taken a bunch of fiat currencies and making a basket out of them, and so it ultimately is, relative to them, more stable. But ultimately, Maker settled to use U.S. dollars as the reference point for Dai because U.S. dollars are more, uh, I guess, used in the world, and they would translate better to usability and user experience. And so, what's preventing the use of CPI baskets? And this just means Consumer Product Index. So the use, you could really peg through a CDP, through the MakerDAO system. You could really peg a would-be Dai to pretty much anything with a reliable price feed. And the only reason that you don't see that yet is because there aren't markets for it. There's no, there's no use for it. There's no real interest for it. And at the moment, the U.S. dollar-based Dai is what's being grown and developed on, and having a network built around. So yeah, so it was an interesting thread. There's a lot of great comment activity in there. And then besides that, another thread, Coinbase Pro Dai volume is now like 6 times bigger. Also, just some really interesting conversations, and so these threads that I pick out, I mostly pick them out just for the quality of the comments and for just some of the ideas that are being thrown around that I don't see every week. And so yeah, feel free to engage in those conversations if you're interested. And then one more thing that I absolutely loved. So CoinDesk put together a really creative video on how MakerDAO works. It was like a stop motion video shot from like above, looking down at a desk at like, and it's really freaking cool. You should check it out. And they hit the nail right on the head with how the system works. And I know a lot of people were really pleased with how great it came out. So kudos to CoinDesk. They did a killer job with that. Uh, and so yeah, that's pretty much it for my recap of the stuff that happened this week in MakerDAO. Let me just close all this. Stop presenting. So yeah, I guess now we got like a few minutes left in the call. If any of you guys have anything that I should talk about, oh yeah, actually, let me catch up on the chat. But if you guys have anything to comment on or bring up a question, feel free to. Yeah, Vitalik does get crunk, Ashley. Are there any updates on collateral types? So yeah, there's no updates on collateral types as of yet. The latest is that hold on, IE has the risk team started prepping guidance for MKR holders on anything particular in prep for MCD launch. Yeah, so Cyrus has been working on a ton of documentation behind the scenes, as I've already mentioned a bit earlier, and a lot of that is going to be made public iteratively, and so the discussions are going to start to occur around collateral types and risk parameters and all that good stuff in basically these coming weeks. So yeah, that's the current status of that. Do we have a timeline for launch at this point? As you know, Ash, there's still no public timeline that is like bulletproof. But generally speaking, I know that I heard people just no serious timeline. But things are really moving along internally, so I think and also just there's a lot of like cognitive prep for MCD, especially in regards to collateral types. So yeah, at the moment I can't really speak to a particular timeline. Yeah, no doubt. All right, cool. So it's the top of the hour. Oh yeah, here, hold on, one more thing. Daniel posted.
One last.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just wondering if anybody has implemented a Dai crowd sale contract before. I'll be doing it to just master solidity and all that. I posted on Reddit. If anybody knows the right pointers or has done it before.
Do you do it through a platform, or is it like just purely like its own smart contract, and like how does that work?
No, it's just I'm gonna build a Solidity. I'm gonna fork the Open Zeppelin crowd sale contract. Make it work with the Dai ERC20.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm just gonna have to rebuild a lot of the checks and validations and re-entrancy guards and all that.
Got it.
So if anybody has done it before, would love to talk to you.
Yeah, Ash, if you want to put him in touch, go for it. That's a good suggestion. I will message Greg and see if he knows anybody that's done this before. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on the Tuesday community call. It was a real pleasure as usual. And I'm gonna be cutting it off because I have a hard stop. But either way, yeah. So Daniel, I'm gonna reach out to Greg and see if he knows anybody that's done this before, and if he does, I'll connect you guys. So yeah, thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.